design guidelines around that.
Yep. Okay, we're going to try and structure this discussion around choice. The obvious pillars are around the financial models, the services that are available, and so we will try and give it a bit of structure. But before we get there, I've got some general questions. Do you, and I'll start with you again, Phil, do you believe that increasing choice across the industry will increase penetration rates and attractiveness to customers?
Well, I was speaking with Andrew Giles a little earlier, and I pointed out to Andrew that our view is somewhat insular because we made a conscious decision 10 years ago to run our own race and get very focused on being very consumer oriented. So, as you saw from the clip, some of the things we did was we went and sat in shopping centres and spoke to people face to face and said, well, you know, all of these various different things, what do you want? Now, what was really clear, to answer your question, was consumers wanted a far greater choice than what they had. And I think that is true today because we do surveys within our own communities with people, and you know, as the baby boomers come through, as we come through, I think not only are we going to expect more choice, we will demand it. It'll be as simple as that. And one of the other points that that came up in general conversation earlier today with the team was, you know, how will legislation affect that? And that's probably something we could talk about a little later. But my overall view is that the consumer will drive, we as the baby boomers will drive what happens with legislation, and if we're not given choice, we'll just walk away from it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I used to value our group's villages every year, did it for about 15 years, and it was interesting to see, even going back 15 years, those villages that were co-located with a residential care facility outperformed villages that didn't have one. I know that that's unremarkable, but it's just interesting that I think consumers have probably always wanted it. It's just that most of us didn't have the experience or the know-how to deliver those choices. Moving forward to the future, I think that it's imperative, and I've said for many years that this industry needs to understand that our role will change as they wind back residential care facilities, as we see less and less low-band care being provided. I think it's imperative that we jump into that space so that we can remain relevant to the consumers moving forward.
But do you think it will increase the industry, however they're calculated? Do you think that fundamentally providing more choices is going to increase the penetration rate of retirement living, seniors living from current point?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Look, I don't think it'll harm the penetration rate. I've got to say that it's an interesting conversation. I did some numbers for my previous employer, and in Western Australia we have to produce 225 ILUs every 8 days until the year 2020 to maintain enough accommodation choices for a 5% penetration rate. I think it was about $80 billion and across the country. And so I've got to say that really is a relevant question.
Kim?
I definitely think providing consumers with choice is going to increase penetration. I'm talking about obviously different choices and options for them. What is a retirement village? They're the big questions to ask. If you roll out retirement villages that all look the same and have the same financial models and have a standard form and all of that, is that providing consumers choice? I really don't think it is, and I think the more choice and range that you're able to provide, your financial models, the more range you're able to provide in that, the more you're likely to grow the penetration rate and appeal to a greater number of people.
Yeah, James?
Yeah, again, we're not in the care space because most of our residents are not moving for care reasons, but you know, our assessment of it in terms of where we sit today is that you know, with HACS packages and the like in our sort of pensioner market that we service, and with council and various other sort of services, others are in a far better place to actually provide those services than we are. that's where we sit today. Whether that changes tomorrow is another journey. It's interesting. We're a listed company now, and I talk to our institutional investors, and in terms of the institutional investors' view of things, they've got their eye very much on Ryman's and Somerset, who really are the sort of absolute darlings of the stock market at the moment in terms of investment and trading way over, their NTA. And they're very much, certainly from their perspective, voting that choice is critical in the offer if you're going to attract an institutional market, which is just interesting.
Yeah, I guess where I'm trying to think, we've got the fabled 95% of people who are eligible to choose us that don't. Is it a lack of choice that we're providing that's preventing people? And I know there's no magic answer to this, but that's kind of where I was going with that question. Choice can obviously be provided at an industry level. If I was walking in and I meet all of you guys and I'm looking for the next stages of my life, you provide me with great choice. Choice can also be provided within your businesses. Where do you think the balance necessarily sits? Do we provide enough choice as an industry, given the diversity that's sitting here on the stage? And do you feel that you're providing sufficient or adequate choice within your own businesses for your customers?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I think we all, when we look into our own businesses, think that we're providing appropriate choice, because that's the perspective, that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So it's hard to answer that question on behalf of yourself. I think in our organisation, I think we do. I think other organisations I've looked at, I think they do. I think there's lots that I've looked at that don't. So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag there. As an industry, again, I was saying before, somewhat insular, because we don't participate a lot in the industry in general. Starting to get involved in it a little bit more now. But from what I've seen, I think the industry generally is behind the curve, to be honest. And I think you've got to be really dynamic, you've got to be very nimble to stay ahead of the curve, and you've got to be really client-centric, is my view on that. So I think generally as an industry, behind the curve, but I think some in the industry are probably ahead of the curve, and you've got to stay there, because as the baby boomers come through, we're not going to put up with anything that's not on topic and on point. It'll be that simple. And that's not far away. And when that hits, all those that aren't prepared to deal with that, they'll pay a price.
Yep. Can I just, sorry, I guess before you jump in, can I just get to my first controversial moment of the morning? You just described 3 characteristics around how we have to be nimble, etc. When you use those words, I look at the ownership of our industry, and particularly in the institutional space, they don't strike me as being able to fit into any of those words that you described. They're not nimble, and it's not their fault. The way that their organisations are structured, it makes it difficult. So given that we're sitting here and saying that choice is an absolute necessity, do you think that that's going to come into conflict with, I guess, a large proportion of the ownership of this industry and how they want to operate their businesses?
I won't get too controversial, but the simple answer is yes, it's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree completely. From the Arcadia Group perspective, I think that we do offer enough choice for our clients. We're not a service provider at this stage. I think down the track we will need to become a service provider. I think that we are looking at innovation in the delivery of construction types, so that we can provide maybe a choice based on price point, but our basic model won't change, and that is that we are about providing quality accommodation at hopefully an affordable price. We're about providing quality facilities so that our residents and our customers can come into a community and hopefully enjoy their last 20 or 30 years, whatever it might be. So look, I think that we are providing plenty of choice. I think the industry does in general. Now, I think that we're really good at beating ourselves up on how we've got to get better or how we must do things better. I don't know of any other industry, including the hotel industry, that looks after customers better. I really don't. And in 15 years, I've been to so many villages around this country and they're just run by fabulous people, and I think it's a fabulous industry. So I think we are providing ample choice at this stage. In 10 years' time, we need to change.
Okay.
I would, not to be controversial again, but I think the issue is choice. I think where there's not enough diversity is in the financial model. Not everyone likes the DMF model. Now certainly I could bang my drum and say, you know, I'm on the rental model, so therefore, but I think, you know, certainly talking to our customers who cross-shop with traditional retirement offers, you know, what we hear repeatedly is they don't like the large DMF, they don't like the refurb clauses and provisions, and they don't like the loss of control. They don't like the loan licence arrangements. So since, you know, you've got choice both in diversity of offer, I think the next challenge is really choice and diversity of the financial model itself.
Yep.
Because, you know, certainly from what we hear through our customers and the baby boom generation, this issue of giving up control, not owning your own home, having step-in rights to refurb and the large DMF, you know, from, you know, certainly helping my business in that they see that as a bit of a turn-off from where they're coming from. So that'd be my sense of choice, is how you diversify the financial models to suit particularly emerging generation, but also current customers.